I like the what's it called? What do you call that? That when you drown, not drowning. What's it called? The swimmer,
Oh,
the swimmer.
Swim, yeah.
I don't know, something. As you can tell,
Down.
I was not popular in high school. I don't even know what that's called. Um, Good morning, everybody. We're jamming. I believe we're live. I always double check the feed because I've done this before and forgot to hit. Everybody get notified? Yes? No? I think we're in. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Great. It's an insane market. We're already in April, and we are glad to be. This is our 45th jam session. We started these back in June, I think, is the first live, or the first one of these we did, and we started doing them live in September, I think, in August or September. I mean, I never thought we'd be doing these for this long, and so very grateful to be sharing the screen with these individuals this morning. And I just appreciate everybody carving the hour out. This is going to be a fun, action-packed hour. There's a lot going on. So we've been through a lot over the last 12 months. COVID, worldwide pandemic, obviously racial unrest, an election in November. And the world has definitely changed. 13, 14 months ago, I never thought I would be in this situation, and nobody has. So we're just grateful that we can snap our fingers and connect like this and collaborate, talk shop, pick each other's brains, glean insights, scratch each other's backs, all the cliches that you've heard over the last 12, 13 months. And so I'm going to kick this off and allow the realtors to introduce themselves briefly, and then the partners, and then we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of what everybody wants to talk about. So that being said, Kourtney, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, I'm Kourtney Murray. I'm a broker with At Properties. I've been in the industry for 8 years now, and really appreciate you having us on this morning.
I will go next. I'm Cathy Deutsch. I'm also with At Properties. I've been in the industry just shy of 5 years, and I service both Chicago and the North Shore.
Awesome. I am Rachel Nemerovski. I have been in the business a year and a half, but I was trained for this my whole life. I work for my mother. I'm super grateful, Joanne Nemerovski, who's been in the business 30 years. And previously, I spent 10 years in public relations and advertising, learning all the basics of digital and PR, and hoping I can help make an impact in Joanne's business with that background. Nice to meet you all.
This is great. And as you know, real realtors, you're on here because you're great at what you do. You've been nominated, obviously, to be featured either in the future or the past. And people know my personality. I kind of go with the flow. I'm pretty dry. I don't take things super seriously, but this is the one part where I'm dead serious. I cannot do what I do without our partners. I mean, literally, these are the people who've trusted me with resources just to create a platform to help spotlight realtors and just help the realtors who actually provide a value and a service to a client, obtain more exposure. And so Chris, Crystal, Christine, I didn't even realize that. That's awesome. Let's say that 5 times fast. I literally can't thank you guys so much. Like, I can't do what I do without you. And so that being said, I'm going to give the partners a chance to introduce themselves really briefly. Why don't we go Crystal, Christine, and then Chris, ladies first, obviously, and then we'll start jamming. So go ahead.
Yeah, so Crystal Kurzynski out of Guaranteed Rate. I am coming up on my 10-year anniversary with Guaranteed Rate in September. Really excited to meet everybody and hear what's going on. So thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you all. I'm Christine Matsunaga from Tristinstyling. I've been a fashion stylist and space designer for 22 years. And I'm just so happy to be a part of this. I love these jams, and Chicago Real Producers is amazing. Andy, you're amazing. And thank you for allowing me to be on this.
Hey guys, my name's Chris Titcomb. I'm a real estate attorney. I've been practicing real estate for almost a decade now. My practice is residential and commercial multifamily, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Andy.
You're very welcome. So this is the part where introductions are done, I literally get out of the way. Obviously, if there's a 17-second awkward pause somewhere, which probably will not happen, I have some conversation starters, but I love these because it's all like a real-time update of what's going in the market, and just ways to navigate, efficient ways to navigate transactions, and just the state of how everything is looking. And so that being said, let's start jamming. So Cathy, when we were sort of pre-gaming, you had a really good point that I think would be great to kick us off with. So go ahead. And you are muted, by the way.
Again, Rachel, I need you.
It happens to everyone.
Yeah, and you provided a great intro because you really laid the land of what we've experienced over the past several months, over the past year, and it's great to have lenders and attorneys on the call, because when I'm looking at the market, I'm curious what everybody is seeing in terms of the emerging buyer. And certainly it's often at the lending level where we first begin to see that. So I'm curious, Crystal, if from you and from anyone, who they're seeing buy right now after seeing some softening in certain areas of the city over the last 9 months or so.
Yeah. I personally have seen an influx of retirees making their way downtown into the luxury condo market, which has been interesting. Also, surfacing some of the younger generation that maybe didn't think that they could afford to buy, have started doing a lot of financial planning. So seeing some of that younger market emerge. And then obviously we all know the families that made their way out to the suburbs maybe a little earlier than they planned on, myself being one of them. So we definitely saw that with COVID. But yeah, I think the biggest one that I've seen as of lately is retirees making their way downtown.
I am seeing
really
the same thing as Crystal. Our clients are retirees looking for a doorman building, trying to get a great price given what's been going on in the world. So we're starting to see those prices harden up, which is interesting. But also millennials who have spent so many years saying, I don't want to own anything. I don't want any responsibility. Now finding during COVID, they were missing that, extra space, or they were missing that balcony, that outdoor space, or in-unit laundry, some of those key pieces, being like, this is my opportunity with rates so low. So we've been shifting our business actually a ton for people my age, my friends, some of what we normally do in the ultra luxe market, isn't moving as much. So we're shifting our business to help, a lot more people, a lot more transactions with people who are doing this for the first time. So it's a really nice life stage to find someone who's really excited to be in that next home, their first home.
It's so interesting. It's interesting to hear about the millennials. No doubt that has been, I think, they've been on the sideline kind of waiting for this moment. But the retirees, I'm just beginning to see that as well. And it's really refreshing.
Yeah.
And I think it is, in some ways, it's a testament to what's happening in the suburbs, where the inventory is so low. And those double moves, people are really struggling with because they don't have a home to go to and before they sell their existing home.
Yep.
So that's interesting to see. Makes me happy to hear that. It gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of investors.
Downtown.
I'm seeing a lot of investors looking for multifamily deals. There's just not a lot of great inventory, as we all know, in the market. So I'm hearing when a contract comes across my desk that this is a multiple bid situation, Chris. Make sure that you're not tough on due diligence requests or this, that, or the other. So there's just not a lot of deals out there, but when there is one, people gobble it up immediately.
Same.
Do you think that is a factor of the future rental market? What do you think is driving that with multi-unit?
I think it's just the metrics. I think the rents right now are are high. And I think that the stock market has been so volatile that people want a more fixed asset to invest in that's secure and that has tax benefits, and you know, you can have appreciation and you can leverage. And I mean, you factor all of the great reasons why we all know people invest in real estate. And I think you know, after seeing last year's rise and fall of the stock market, they're like, screw this. I want something that I can hold for a long period of time. I don't have to worry about those huge variations.
Yeah, I think another reason that, well, one of the reasons I saw last year was we had a couple where one spouse lost their job, but they had investments. So they said, you know what, we need to work for ourselves now. It was kind of like a wake-up call with so many people losing their jobs. They said, how do we do that? The real estate market is the way to do it. So that's another reason I've seen people invest. I mean, I'm on the designer side of that, but seeing that from clients, you know, now the other thing too is somebody loses their job and then they want to invest so that they can move somewhere and live there while having the mortgage take the blow of having a renter as well. So that's another thing that I've seen as well, along with what was it Rachel or Cathy who was saying that you saw, oh no, it was Crystal. You said that you've seen retirees moving out to other places as well. I've seen retirees move far out, you know, and I've also seen that where retirees go downtown as well. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is they want to grab that forever rate that, you know, mortgage rates were the lowest we've seen in, I don't even know. So, you know, I think that, right. And I think that made people pull the trigger on doing a long-term investment, like a multi-unit, you know?
I think a lot of people didn't realize that they wanted to retire. I think there's an influx of that, like, oh, maybe I want to enjoy the rest of my life. Like, that's a good thought.
Yeah. I feel like if anyone was thinking of any kind of life change, small or anything, they pulled the trigger this year, which is exciting for so many people.
So true. Yeah. I have a couple of clients who, a handful of clients who they had no plans of retiring, and it happened last year because of the market and because of the time. So it's kind of cool to see. So there's that rainbow too, you know?
Yeah.
So here's a good question for the realtors. With all of the, you know, the low inventory and the huge surge of buyers, and what are you guys doing? What sort of advantages can you find for your client to win that multiple bid situation? What's the strategy there?
A lot of begging and pleading.
A lot of
Seen and trained.
You know, like Bridgeport or your Jefferson Parks of the world, where there really isn't a lot of inventory, but they're really small niche markets. It's so competitive. It's painful. It's painful for them. It's painful for us. And it's gotten to the point where, you know, anyone, if you've either listed or sold in the last 12 months, I'm reaching out to you once a month, begging you, do you have this exact product? And it works. It's not a ton of people getting back to me, but trying to find more pockets every day. That's all. I mean, there's a few things you can do, but that's been my number one tactic right now.
I think Kourtney is right. I think that it is a lot of it is the relationships that you cultivate with your colleagues and making sure that you are continually having conversations about what is coming on the market so that you are ready when the seller is, or even before the seller is, in many cases.
Yeah, there's actually a ton of tactics that we employ. Not only, you know, we like to say, yes, we have our client, our buyer, or our seller, but also other realtors are our clients, because you want to work with someone that you've had a great experience with, that you know has your back. You guys are in this deal together. So I think what you guys are doing makes total sense. We have a lot of things that are selling completely off market because, you know, people are reaching out to us and we're getting into tons of multiple bid situations. But some smart things we're thinking of is what can you be doing into the, you know, partnering with someone like Crystal to know, okay, what if we lose our mortgage contingency? Are we safe? Is our client going to be okay? That's something that definitely pushes you over the edge when you're in a competitive situation. Thinking through, can we do an as-is purchase, which is really hard for first-time home buyers, but if you have the right expertise and you can walk them through all the pieces, obviously you can get out of a contract if something's terrible, but kind of making sure your client feels comfortable and seeing, you know, maybe that's another tactic that you can use. But the off-market has been absolutely crucial. And I think, Christine, what I've been seeing is people want completely turnkey. So I'm sure your services have been in such high demand because all the things we've been selling, if it's not completely turnkey, it might sit on the market. So we need to do everything we can for our clients to make sure someone walks in and it feels move-in ready.
Yeah, it's so true. Also for, you know, for clients who are looking to buy a house and they want to have that budget for renovations, for people who don't know out there who are watching, what is the nutshell version of how they get their loan together for that? You know, a lot of people don't know, I guess, the options.
Yeah. So are you specifically asking like about a renovation loan
Yeah,
type program?
Because I've had some clients do that, and then for me, I'm like, I'm the designer. You know, just ask your people, they'll explain it for you, you know. So it's just like, what would the good nutshell explanation be, you know, for that?
Yeah, I mean, a Guaranteed Rate has their own specific department that handles all of our renovation loans. So they specialize in the ins and outs of once you get that process started. The pre-approval is the same. You know, we're looking at the same information that you're going to be looking at when you're doing a standard 30-year mortgage. So it's just a matter of, you know, staying in communication with your loan officer throughout the process, and making sure that you're doing everything in a timely manner to stay well ahead of anything that can happen during, you know, contract negotiations.
So I guess like for the realtors as well, and also Chris, how does this change the way the buyer works, right? Like, do they have to know all this? They have to know it all off the bat, I imagine, right? So that everything as far as negotiation goes, shopping, it's all happening that way from the beginning, right? It's
for a renovation. Are you speaking just strictly from a renovation loan perspective?
Just for people who are shopping for a home, but then they want to be able to renovate before they move in. So I have a client that's dealing with that right now. So I guess, you know, and she said, oh, you know, I just don't know where to start. I said, well, you know, your realtor, your attorney, they can all work on that. I said, I'm the designer, I don't know. So I guess, you know, I guess what my question really is how do buyers approach, right? Like, who do they approach first? Is this like a whole collaboration thing? I imagine it's something they have to know off the bat, right? So that everything is in order beforehand.
I mean, first of all, I'm going to start with, I'm not a lender, so
yeah,
I'm not giving you
that's
the
what I was
best
saying.
advice here.
I think we lost Chris. Crystal, while Chris is trying to come back to life again, let me ask you on that specific note. So what I often am telling my clients, and I hope it's right.
You're doing. There we go.
There he is.
Did I just freeze for the last 15 seconds?
No, we didn't hear anything you said.
I thought you were just playing
It was really good, guys.
Oh man, Chris.
Trust me. I was dropping knowledge left and right.
You gotta love technology.
That was your practice round.
I will say I'm in Mexico right now, so my connection speed may be a little slow.
Unfair. You
I
dropped that little gem.
know. Right?
No, I don't feel bad for you.
No.
So I'll back up about 20 seconds here to answer your question, Christine, on what a buyer can do to sort of prepare themselves when planning for a renovation and who to speak to. My answer was obviously speak to the lender first to figure out what that buyer can get approved for, so that they know what sort of product they can look at. But when you're doing a renovation, I mean, you know, the one of the number one things that they need to do is figure out what sort of scope of work they're gonna put into the property. So then when you come in, you know exactly what to advise them. So I think it's
Yeah.
always just running of the numbers before you dive into anything else.
Yeah. How does that change for your realtors, you know, shopping with clients who are looking for this particular type of deal?
You know, for me right now, just with what I'm seeing in the trends, it's more for us about getting our seller ready to have something more turnkey.
Mm.
With all the younger buyers, they just don't have the wherewithal right now to take on a project. So a lot of times we'll leave a place after a showing and they'll be like, you know, it's not for me, it needs XYZ. So I feel like a good niche for you actually is trying to find someone who needs to go on the market, but has lived there 30 years, has never done anything, and might not have that vision. But I'm definitely, you know, it's very rare right now that we're seeing someone coming in being like, oh, I want to add value to a place, which we love to hear. I mean, that's our favorite thing. We want to come back in however many years and sell that place, and you've added, you know, X dollar amount, which is our favorite. But we're just not seeing that right now in the trends. I don't know if the other realtors are, but I mean, turnkey is what's going right now.
Yeah.
No, for me, I work with a lot of millennials, and it's really, you know, talk to your lender. Talk to your lender.
Yeah.
Do you understand what you're doing? And then, you know, once they've kind of figured out the whole scope of, you know, what are they willing to take on? And sometimes you have to go see a few properties for them to understand exactly, you know, people really think that they want 3 flats, but that investment compared to a 2 flat, there is a lot. The difference in work is astronomical. And a lot of people don't understand that, but the numbers work better for 3 flats a lot of the time. So it's really understanding what they think they want, turning that into what they actually want, vetting those properties, and then moving forward on the one where the numbers make sense, not just because you want it, where the numbers make sense.
I like that advice of seeing it in person first as well. That's a good point, you know?
Yeah, and you know, some properties with your normal listing, they look beautiful and they're wonderful. But when you're in multi-units, it's maybe not as glamorous, and you know, you might see the funky basement that you can't really see on the MLS, and you have to go see them. You have to go see them a couple times.
I do think that right now with inventory where it is, we're seeing more of those harder to sell properties coming on the market, because it is an opportunistic time as a seller to be able to take your property that may in a market that was a little bit more flush with properties, it would be harder to compete with those that are turnkey. No doubt that most buyers today want something that is turnkey, and I think they're, to some degree, right now, buyers are conceding on things that they never thought that they would. Yeah. So helping them, I think, as a realtor, figure out how to strategize their approach to a renovation is really important. Not just, well, if I just do this one thing, but thinking through the whole process, how they're going to pay for it and what the paced approach is, living in it first, starting work before. And with rates so low, Crystal, a question for you is, how successful are buyers at this point buying, closing, and then turning around and pulling some money out in a home equity line with rates where they are so that they can do some of that work?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I haven't had any clients yet that have set up that home equity line, but obviously, I mean, the process is fairly simple on our end to set them up to just have an open line. They don't have to draw on it that day. They can get their planning in order for what they're going to set up over the next year. And so I don't think that necessarily complicates things on my side.
Is there a, sorry, Crystal, on that question, is there a threshold? So if someone comes in and is put 20% down, is that enough for somebody to turn around and do a home equity line at this point?
Yeah, certainly. Guaranteed Rate doesn't offer home equity lines, but we do have brokers that we partner with to set them up with that. And I mean, those brokers have great flexibility with their loan to values. So we can set them up, you know, in the past, I've seen 10% down and still been able to get a home equity line. So yeah, those are definitely options that are available.
So maybe we should switch gears a little bit and start a new topic. Andy, did you want to switch it over to a different topic, or since this is organic, should we just?
I count about 10 1,000 in my head. I have no problem with awkward silence, because there's always somebody thinking of something and then they don't want to say it, and then once we get in a window, then they'll say it. So go ahead, Cathy.
I've got a question, and Chris, maybe I don't know if this is a question directed to you, but if you look at where developers are starting to build, I mean, we had such a big construction boom over the last 10 years, and then I think there's been a little bit of I think we've been in a planning phase more so. Not as many are pulling the trigger, the small developers, quite as quickly, but I'd be curious to see where people are working with developers to buy right now and develop new properties.
Yeah, I'm seeing I mean, Pilsen is just on fire right now. I'm seeing a ton of activity down there. You know, I still love the Logan Square, Avondale, you know, North Milwaukee corridor. You know, that's always close to the blue line, 9094, you know, but if I were to put my finger on, you know, the number one spot that I'm seeing, it's Pilsen. And I think that is, well, what was that? I think a Forbes article just voted it, you know, last year, like one of the coolest spots in the world, not the US. So I think people are taking advantage of it. I mean, there's so much development going on down there right now. It's nuts. But one thing that I will point out that is, I think, coming across just from a city ordinance wise issue is sort of an anti-development take. They're seeing so many multifamilies convert into single family that I think, and I'm going to start by saying I don't know the ins and outs of it entirely, but I'm seeing that taking place right now in Pilsen and right around the 606. I think those are two areas that have seen so much activity that the city's trying to just put a halt to all of it because of all of the gentrification that's taking place, and it's pushing out so many of the longtime residents. So I think I just touched on a lot of different factors there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, why is that taking place? Numbers. Okay, the numbers make sense there. You know, you can still buy a lot for, I don't know what price per square foot, but you know, the alderman is probably favorable with zoning changes and allowing for it, and they're able to sell at whatever after repaired value that allows them to turn a very handsome profit. And I mean, that sort of is the development MO for any area that you go to. And so I think that's sort of the underlying reason for it.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you guys seeing? Are you seeing the same thing? Is there other pockets that you guys are seeing a lot of activity in?
Bronzeville, definitely, I think, is the other with Pilsen.
Bronzeville, yeah, 100%, right.
Yeah.
I was also seeing a lot in Woodland. Woodlawn, obviously just being south of Hyde Park. You know, the University of Chicago is expanding their growth down there. I mean, you hear about the Obama Library down there. You hear about just a lot of good things going on, and so I was seeing a lot of contracts come in for deals down there. More just investment multifamily deals, but from a new construction perspective that you asked about, that's more Pilsen and then the 606 location.
Yeah. Thanks. Rachel, are you seeing any of your millennial audience or being sort of pioneers into emerging markets like this?
Actually, because Joanna and I, we focus more on like Lakeview, Lincoln Park, Gold Coast, Streeterville. I think, some of those folks know that's where we are experts in our field. But obviously, they haven't owned before. They don't know the state of the market. So if they could open their eyes to other neighborhoods and they could get more space for the dollar amount and still have, a great life, we are recommending other neighborhoods that could potentially be a great fit. Our job is to educate our buyers, whether they came to us saying, I only want Lincoln Park or I only want this area. It's a big purchase and it's a first time purchase. So we want to make sure we're educating. And by the time you pick the right one, you are feeling so confident that that is a great spot for you. So that's kind of how we're trying to showcase what you could purchase in each neighborhood to make sure that you're feeling good with the ultimate result.
Yeah, I think it really depends on your end goal. You got to find out what sort of a buyer you're working with. Is this a new family? Is this somebody just right out of college? And then going back to the number one thing, what sort of numbers are you working with? What can you afford? So a lot of it plays in.
I work with a lot of millennials, and a lot of them are going south and a lot of them are going out. So I personally live in Wrigleyville, but I'm in Bridgeport way more than I thought I ever would be. Since about November of last year, and it's consistent. I'm there once every couple weeks. Like Bridgeport is just, it's crazy. Pilsen, like you said, is really up and coming. East Garfield Park is beautiful.
Huge.
It's huge.
East Garfield Park is, yeah.
And it's fascinating because it's all this planning that's been happening over the last few years, and then just because of COVID, it's just boom. Like it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if you had asked me like a year ago how the market would be doing right now, I would have said, well, it's gonna suck, and I think that just tells me one thing, is that I am the last person to predict anything because the market is insane right now. So it's good for all of us. But I mean, are you guys a lot of home sale contingencies on your deals because people have potentially been waiting to sell, and now that they're putting their home on the market, it's flying off the shelf and they're like, oh crap, what do I do now that I have to sell? Where am I going to live?
My recommendation 6 months ago would have been completely different than this current market. We have a couple home sale contingencies deep in the midst of COVID where a lot of downtown properties weren't necessarily selling, so you could get a better deal and you could have different contingencies on your contract. But right now, you're not competitive if you have to have more than, just a mortgage contingency, if you even get that opportunity, because we're in so many multiple bid situations. What we're actually counseling our clients is if they have to sell before they can buy, let's get that thing sold, because everything's moving so fast. We do not want them to fall in love before they even have the opportunity. And our job is to counsel them so they're not stretched beyond their means. So right now, I don't really recommend that kind of thing because, we don't want to put anyone in a bad situation.
Right.
I've had friends, they'll sell their place, they'll go live with mom and dad. Just waiting to find the next one because at least they're getting top dollar. They'll go live with mom and dad, then they find that home that they love. Just trying to be smart. It's not fun, but at least we're being smart.
Yeah, Rachel, you hit the nail on the
head. Yeah.
Jinx.
Go ahead.
I'm curious what you're seeing in the condo market versus, we all see it in single family homes and in smaller buildings, but in the condo market, I'm curious to see what people are beginning to see.
It depends on
in the
what
high
you
rise.
have. Do you have outdoor space? Do you have natural light? Did you update it? you know, what it's now that all encompassing, you know, who do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? And what does my life look like within these four walls? And then, you know, outside of that, if you have decent amenities or honestly just a balcony, you are doing great. If you don't have that or parking, it's tough. It's just, you have to be turnkey or perfect, priced right. Otherwise, everyone's like, no thanks. I don't know, Rachel, if you're seeing the same thing.
I can speak. So I've done a lot of CMAs recently, directly for kind of Gold Coast, Streeterville, downtown condo market. I would even say 2 weeks ago is very different than today. 2 weeks ago, you know, we have some beautiful listings at like 800 North Michigan and some other buildings that we've just been struggling with. Obviously, there was a lot of unrest, and these units are so beautiful, and there's like 10 active at 800 Michigan. And 680 Lakeshore Drive, there's 17 active. And even in the last like couple days, I have clients that are retiring, wanting to move downtown, and they have like 4 favorite buildings, and things are moving. And I'm having to go into canceled listings, things that, you know, have been canceled over the last 3 years, seeing if anyone wants to come back on the market and show us their spot. So you know, I love Chicago. I am committed to Chicago. I grew up here. This is my place. And I have a very positive outlook on the city. So I am very hopeful that things will, you know, start to come back, especially downtown.
Cool.
I'm seeing the same thing, Rachel. The last 2 weeks, there has been a real uptick. Yeah, things that are going under contract quicker, or that have been sitting are going under, and it just looks like the inventory is beginning to absorb. Not quickly, but absorb. And it wasn't for a long time. Correct. So I'm seeing the same thing. Yeah.
Right. I completely agree. I've received a couple of these new Tribune contracts for buyers, and these buyers, one of the buyers in particular is unrepresented, but they were telling me that there was zero negotiation. Tribune, for example, they just know that they're holding the cards right now. And I mean, that probably has a little bit to do with new construction in general, but that's just one example. I've also seen similar stories from the Vista. I've received a couple contracts at some of the higher end properties. I don't know, Trump and 55 East Erie and Pinnacle. And you're right. I think in the last 2 weeks, the what used to be more of a buyer's market is sort of shifting into a little bit of a seller's market.
Yeah, I think that the newer buildings are going to pick up probably quicker, and then we have the drive, where I think we're beginning to see things pick up. Still the best views in Chicago.
Absolutely.
Still the best.
Hands down.
And I think there's a real opportunity right there. I think it's being overlooked by a lot of buyers at the moment.
Hands down. I think people will come back. I think Chicago's a beautiful city. I think all that it has to offer. I mean, I'm a city person myself, so I don't know how many of you live in the suburbs, but I'm very, very swayed and favorable with the city. So I think just, you know, you find anything you want to do within a 5-minute walk, which is really
and you want outdoor space, it can be right out your door.
Yeah.
Totally.
You're enjoying Mexico, but these are like the days you dream about in Chicago. Coming up summer, we're very pumped over. Yeah, I'm in a dress today. You know, we're
not too bad.
Looks beautiful.
It's the best when it's a horrible day in the city, and then you're in Cabo or
No,
wherever
actually,
the heck you are.
I was just looking at the temps. It's like 64 in Chicago today.
It's gonna be nice.
Oh,
hey,
it's gonna be in the 70s.
Yeah, that's 70 something. Before I forget, really fast, I'm gonna take a screenshot with everybody smiling. This may or may not make it in the next issue of CRP. So just throwing it out. I may know a guy who can make that happen. Ready? And don't be like my children and then smile for like 2 seconds and then stop. So When you see me stop smiling, you stop smiling. I make that joke every time and it makes people smile for some reason. So I'm gonna keep going with it. Ready, set, 2, 3. I think we nailed it on the first one.
Yay!
Find out. Everybody got a good pose, pearly whites. We nailed it. Sorry, that is my interrupt. I do have one more. I do have one more other interruption because I keep getting people who ask me. Hold on here. If we do have a digital version of CRP. It is a private publication, just goes to the top 500 realtors in the city based on production in 606 zip codes. So it's very targeted and niche. But people ask, hey, do you have a PDF? You know, all that. So can you guys see that? This is actually the sneak peek of the April cover too, by the way. So there you go. This isn't even in print yet. I think it's on the app. So the nice thing is, and I even thought of uploading with the app too. It has event videos on there, but I've even thought of uploading like previous jam sessions just because it's kind of like a timeline of how far we've come. Because even as you guys were talking, 12 months ago, April 6th of 2020, that was kind of in like the freak out spot. Everybody would agree with me. We didn't know what was going on. I was like, events are getting postponed. I'm like, shoot, are people going to want to support us? I mean, literally, I'm just full transparency. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I think with the Zoom stuff, people got zoomed out for a little bit, but I think this is something we'll still probably do once in-person stuff does resume. That was my dad joke for the day right there. Sorry, nobody laughed. It's like my daughter when I try to crack a joke, she rolls her eyes. But we will not do it as frequently. But I think it's just a really cool way to connect people. So the app is called Digipub. Currently, it still is free to download. I'm sure they'll start charging for it eventually. But I know if you do have it on your phone, you'll be grandfathered in. So it'll be, it's called Digipub. And then you actually have access to all the real producers markets in the country. Not that you would need those, but we have obviously Chicago, North Shore, and then DuPage. So if you want to hop on, download it. That's really my only plug. Nobody, I guess technically that was sponsored by everybody on this call. So there you go. No, I mean, we're about 10, 12 minutes out. So I mean, what are some other topics out there? It's very confidence inspiring, and Rachel, I actually tagged you in one of the comments on the thread, but it's confidence inspiring to hear that the condo and the high rise stuff's moving a little bit more, because I mean that took a while, rightly so, but that's really it's very encouraging. I learn a lot and absorb a lot from these, probably more than anybody else does. So I'm glad you said that.
I have a question for everyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Rock, paper,
I noticed
scissors.
that with well, I noticed with how everything is moving so quickly, there's also an uptick in stress. So how do you guys find you manage stress, not only for yourselves, but also for your clients, right? Because I've had to do that on some occasions where it's like people are freaking out, and then you have to have that compassion, but you're doing business,
Alcohol? No.
Keeping it real.
Well, for me, I have the benefit of working with my mom. So we are basically, whether good or bad reasons, we are hysterically laughing the entire day. We are running around like crazy people trying to make various appointments and clients. And so, just kind of laughing through it. This can be definitely a stressful business. It's usually, it's a very emotional decision for someone on both ends of the transaction. So, being a therapist every day is sometimes just the hat you have to put on. So I got a quarantine puppy during COVID, and, doing things like having her first birthday party in Oz Park last week, those are the kind of things you need to do to keep yourself sane in this crazy, crazy market.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think.
Go ahead, Cathy.
No, I was just going to say, I think reminding clients, I think that some people are feeling the pressure of the market, the increase in rates, and there's this sense of urgency. And I am frequently reminding my clients that first of all, another house will come on the market. They continually do. It is never the last one. And you may fall in love again tomorrow, just like you dated many people before you committed. You might actually find that you fall in love even a little bit more, a little bit different tomorrow. So I think there's that. And I think, you know, continually reminding people that whether the rate is 3.125 or 275, it is so far below anything that we've seen historically that it is, I mean, people's buying power has changed with these rates, and people want to harness that, no doubt. But I think telling people to just kind of take a breath, and you got to meet them where they are. I mean, if someone is gung-ho, I will join them there, but I try to be a voice of reason as well.
Well, that goes back to education, right? Education, setting expectations. It's, you know, hey, it's going to be a wild ride. Let's buckle up. This is what's going to happen. You're going to go some places. We're going under contract like this. We're doing attorney review like this. Like, we're having the inspectors like lined up. Letting them know it's going to be crazy is really helpful. And they appreciate that, and that, you know, helps them. And then, just trying to take care of ourselves along the way, right? You know, whether it's trying to work out.
A lot of Peloton.
Love it. Yeah, working out. You know, mental health is great. Talking to someone is great. Realizing you need to take 5 minutes. Take those. You know, my husband had to remind me to take a lunch break. And I was like, shoot, like, you're right. So we have to do those things. If we can't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our clients.
Yeah, Kourtney, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's all, from a client's perspective, it's managing expectations, just explaining to them from the outset, this is probably what's going to happen, so that they don't think it's all roses and it's going to be perfect throughout the way. You're going to have counters. They're going to push back on this issue or that issue, so that they sort of know what to expect. And then you're right, from just your own personal self, you know, whatever works for you. Some people, it's like meditation. For me, it's just exercise, you know, making sure that you always have your set routine that you stick with every single morning. And you do that, what's that expression? Eat the frog or whatever. You do the worst thing in the morning, so it's off.
Do the thing you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So that it's not on you. It's not on your mind throughout the rest of the day. You know, there's all these self-help books, but a lot of the stuff that they talk about in there is actually pretty on point. And so I think that's how I do it, from just a client perspective and a personal perspective.
Nice.
And you do it from Mexico.
Right. And travel. No, but I mean, here's the thing, guys. Like, one thing that COVID has allowed is just us to be remote, right? The video conference wasn't really that popular pre-COVID. And I mean, COVID's horrible, don't get me wrong, but one thing that it's kind of taught everybody is how to communicate better in a digital world. And I'm having so many, you know, from an attorney's hat on, you know, we're trying to sort of manage COVID by social distancing, and that does have its benefits through Mexico, but I can do my closings. In Mexico, and so it's got its pros and cons. I'll put it that way. It's also a stress reliever, Rachel. That's for sure.
Oh, I wish I was there. Believe me.
I know. I'm not, Andy. I'm not.
You know, one thing this is making me think of, going back to kind of market conditions, is the stress of a new buyer going under contract and not missing out. People are missing deals, and then they'll get into something that they may not love. And I'm seeing like a lot of these 500, 600K deals. Sometimes they're just falling apart. So you have a second chance for your client if you didn't get them in soon enough. So is anyone else seeing that? Just, you know, deals aren't necessarily staying together like they should.
deals that aren't staying together, or decisions that are being made very emotionally and quickly, and then people sort of having a once they have a moment to breathe, taking a step back. And I say to people when they're, you know, if they've lost out on a multiple, I say it really is not over. It's not over until that property closes. So if you love it, we write a backup offer, you watch it, you stay in communication with that agent, because people are making very quick decisions, and those decisions are sometimes reconsidered in the days following signing a contract.
Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest fear, someone closing on a property and then just not being absolutely in love with it. So that education piece is so crucial.
Mhm.
Yeah, Chris, are you seeing a lot of, or Crystal, are you seeing a lot of contracts that are canceling?
Now, not so much as when COVID first hit. When COVID first hit, was, I mean, we all know it was just everything was tanking left and right.
Yeah.
I will go out on a limb and just say I think more of my contracts cancel. How do I put this nicely? I think the more experienced broker that's working with the client, the less likely it is the deal will cancel, because they've been educated throughout the transaction a little bit better than somebody working with a less experienced broker. I can sort of predict just when I initially speak to my client whether they're going to cancel. I can tell quicker based on an investor client, because they may not have run their numbers, or this may be, you know, one of their first or second deals, and they're still sort of on the fence and they have analysis paralysis still. But it all goes back to, I think, the broker. The more experienced the broker will be able to help guide them along the way better.
Well, I think it's a part of our job. Just because you don't love it doesn't mean you have to put an offer on it. Reeling them back, they get so glossy-eyed. And our job is to help them not make a commission. And a lot of people forget that. So just saying, no, you can't. You just can't.
This isn't right for you.
Yeah, just don't. I think that's important.
We hear Joanne say she's a mom first, you know.
That's good. That's good.
Christine, can I ask, as a designer, are you going what Rachel said about making sure that properties are ready to roll, they're turnkey? Obviously, you can't always make sure that an entire property is turnkey, but what are the quick wins that you like to offer?
You know, something that I like to tell clients is that, say the budget is small for staging, for example, if we're talking about selling a house that needs to sell, even if it just comes down to using their own things and then taking away all of the stuff that's too personal. So like having a chopping board on the counter with some fake fruits, or, you know, something that makes it feel lived in. And these are things that you could do with your own stuff, and then minimizing everything that you have. So that's the key there. A lot of times people think they got to clear out, go full staging, but sometimes you can just clear out a lot of the clutter, and then it allows buyers to walk in and see the space for what it is. You know, when they're seeing too much personal stuff, too many things on the walls, too many things in every corner, a lot of buyers don't have that visual for themselves. That's what I've discovered. And they're like, how do you just make it so easy? You're just like, no, to put the vase there and blah, you know, and I'm like, no, it's so easy. But I've learned over the years, you know, it's been over 2 decades, that that's not something that everybody can do, right? So that's why where that turnkey comes into play, where maybe even if it's not turnkey, if you give them the feeling of them being able to have it be their living space, right? If it feels lived in and loved, then a client is more likely to go, I can see myself here, right? So yeah.
Good advice.
I love it. Well, hey, I think that is a good stopping point, just to keep everybody on point. And I know people have appointments. I don't know, you guys are successful realtors. Maybe you have money to make, or, you know, obligations that may or may not be true. But seriously, very grateful for everybody who participated. I'm going to cut the live feed right. There we go. But no, seriously, thanks everybody for participating. These have been fun. Like I say, it's nothing that you have to like add a bunch of value in an hour. I mean, this is just like, we started these, I think I said this I think when I asked most of you to participate, we started these just because people liked them. And it's like, I had a realtor, this was a realtor's idea, who said, hey, what would you think about doing these Facebook Live? Because if we're all gonna kind of get together and talk shop anyway, why not, just put great value into the ether, the electronic, ones and zeros, internet. I don't know. I'm getting a big matrix analogy going on right now, but I can't figure out how to tie it together. So if you want to get on another one of these, like next month, or maybe even in June sometime, just let me know. We try to cycle through them and get different realtors, different partners interacting. And I wish everybody a productive, blessed day. And God willing, we will have an event soon, but that's really not up to me. It's up to the city and just people's comfort levels. So I appreciate good seeing everybody again. And till we meet again.
Nice meeting you
Andy.
all.
Nice to meet everyone. Have a great day.
And
Bye.
I'll send
Bye.
everybody's info
Bye.
out too. I'll send like a
Thank
follow-up
you.
email if everybody
Perfect.
wants to connect after.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank
Have a good day,
Thanks,
guys.
Andy.
Bye, everyone.
Guys.